Hey everybody, I hope you're all doing well given the current situation. I think in times like these it would be insincere to pretend that everything is normal, but my aim with today's video is to add a little more pleasure to your time at home. Before we start, I'd like to give a big shout out to all the staff at hospital, from the medical professionals to the janitors. These guys are fighting every day on the front line, making sure that we're all healthy and safe. Stretta Shorts were made to provide useful information for people spending their time at home, and this week is no different. I started Stretta Beer on a homebrewing setup, and things grew from there. This week we're speaking to Marco Muscat from the Beer Hop, Malta's first dedicated homebrewing supply shop, and years later these guys are still going strong. I hope you enjoy it. Hi Marco, thank you very much for accepting the invite.
Hi Joan, thank you for the invite. It's a pleasure to be here today.
So, what's the easiest way that a person can start brewing their first batch of beer?
Essentially, you don't need much equipment to start off with. You need certain items. I'm just showing you my kit, personal kit. This is a 16-liter fermenter. It's basically the main component that you would need to allow the magic to happen inside. It comes with an airlock, the fermenter itself, and a cap, and also a temperature strip. You also need a sanitizer. This sanitizer is a very important element in everything because you shouldn't allow anything that comes in contact with the beer itself to be contaminated, otherwise it can ruin your batch. I like your dog there, it's really cool. You also need a brewing spoon, which helps you stir all the contents in the fermenter. You also need a bottle rinser. This helps you clean all the bottles before you transfer the liquid or the beer from the fermenter to the bottles. And there's like caps and capper. So this is a handy tool to have because you can close the bottles with the caps. And also there is a hydrometer. This is a very interesting tool because it measures the alcohol level, measures the density of the sugars, and ultimately it gives you the approximate value of the alcohol in your beer. And last but not least, you have the malt extract. Now this is the beginner's method. It's basically a mix of malted grains, hops, and yeast. There's quite a few items, but nowadays you can find them in boxes, so they come all in one box. For example, this is a small kit, and they come with instructions. They fell, but never mind. And this makes your life easier to get started.
Oh, and someone can just get one of these kits and start brewing their first batch of beer just from one of these kits, from one of these boxes.
Yes, certainly. It's really, really easy to get you started.
Could you walk us through a bit what the process is of what they need to be doing with one of these kits?
Yeah, sure. It's pretty straightforward. There's some steps that you could follow. I mean, all the kits come with instructions, but the idea is that you have the malt extract, which is made of syrup. The contents in the kit is syrup. So you need to transfer them in a boiling kettle of 2 liters of boiling water or 3 liters. So you make sure that the syrup is diluted and it's well mixed. And eventually you transfer the boiling wort into the fermenter. Once that is done, sometimes some recipes might ask you to add a kilogram of sugar to increase the alcohol level. I like to add that because I like to have it a bit above the normal alcohol level, and eventually you top it up with water. So in this bucket, essentially it will be the malt extract water, maybe added sugar, and ultimately you have to pitch in the yeast. Now the yeast comes in a small packet. It's always included in a kit usually, and the yeast has a very important role because first of all it works between temperature 18 to 24 degrees, so that is where it works best. And the role of the yeast is to convert the sugars that come out from the malt extract into alcohol and carbon dioxide. So this is where, with this one, you get all the magic happening within the fermenter. After that, once you do the fermentation starts once you pitch in the yeast in the contents. And that takes around 7 days for all the sugars to be consumed. And once that is done, after 7 days, you transfer all the beer in the bottles, you cap it. Before you cap it, you add a bit of sugar, so you add some carbonation to the beer, and you let it stay for, say, 2 weeks. After 2 weeks, you just refrigerate and you're ready to start drinking. So from day one, from brew day to drinking, it takes around 4 weeks, depends on the recipe.
And you could be drinking your own beer after 4 weeks?
Yes, definitely, yeah, or share with friends.
How many liters of beer could you brew with such a kit?
The kit that I showed you earlier is that gives you 12 liters of beer, so it's 24 pints of beer, but you can get even larger batches. So there are kits that give you 23 liters, which give you 45 pints or so plenty of that.
That's really good. And then once maybe someone starts brewing a few kits and wants to kind of start brewing maybe more advanced beers and more advanced techniques, there are also different techniques that one can use, such as a partial mash or an all grain setup, for example.
Yes, right, John. And there are more advanced techniques. I always recommend starters to start with beginners, right, with the kit that I showed, because that gets you familiar. You get more familiar with the whole process. And anyway, all the equipment that is available for the beginners is also used for partial mash that you mentioned and all grain. What is partial mash? Partial mash is basically it's a mix of grains. They come in a kit, right? So you have everything all the recipe, all the instructions. They come with instructions here. You can just follow. It's like cooking a soup, you just follow step by step. But it's a mix of malt extract and grains. So you have real grains here. That is kind of the intermediate level. Then you go all grain. So you don't use any of the syrup that I mentioned earlier. And you go with real grains. For example here, this is a Pilsner. It's a base malt that one could use. It's a 5 kilogram one. So you use this as a base to do your beer rather than the malt extract. And the technique, I can show you maybe roughly, it's like a brew in a bag method, where you practically have a large tea bag, you can call it like this, and you put the grains inside. And once you put the grains inside, you put them in a pot. And you boil to make sure that the grains have their starches, they come out from the grains and they become fermentable sugars. But without going into much detail, it takes more time to do the all grain version compared to the beginners, but of course it's more fun and you can experiment with whatever ingredients that you want, with fruit or orange zest, whatever you can think of. So it's really fun.
And there's also a homebrewing community starting in Malta. And I know that you are organizing a homebrewing meetup quite recently. Could you tell us more about it?
Yes, it was very unfortunate timing. Like it was meant to be like 2 weeks ago. The home brewers themselves were begging me to do this to get people together, and I said yes, why not? Finally, when I decided to do it, all this craziness happened, and I had to cancel it, obviously for precautionary reasons. But yeah, I tell you, it's like, you've met some of the home brewers. They're really nice people. There's variety of like nationalities. They come from the four corners of the world, and basically they're all very curious. They ask questions. They're really good people, nice people to hang out with. And I really hope that next time when I do it, John, you'll be my official guest. Maybe you can have a quick beer talk, like how you started as a home brewer and then you moved on to Stretta. I officially invite you, if you don't mind.
I'd love to join. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. It will be an honor to have you there. And yeah, I really hope that this will happen, and we'll have more people to join and meet some new friends.
Perfect. Marco, importantly, what are you drinking at the moment? At the moment, I'm drinking a bottle of Cygnus English bitter sent to me by Kurt Gaffa. It's an English bitter, so it's quite malty. But it's also brewed with black cardamom and carob julep. So it's malty, and the spices are also coming up on the aroma, but not too much. It's just perfect. It's really refreshing. Yourself?
Well, I'm having a peanut butter stout. It's one of my latest experiments. I found this recipe online and I said, let's give it a try, because I really like peanut butter. For a first experiment, it really turned out quite well. I know how to improve it. I'll add more peanut butter for sure. It's a powder peanut butter, not real peanut butter, because it might ruin the beer itself because of the fats. But I'm quite happy with this beer. But I know that beer that you're trying of Kurt, he's one of the home brewers that I really enjoy talking to, because he has a lot of experimental beers, and likewise many other home brewers. So cheers.
Amazing. Cheers, Marco. Thank you very much. I'll speak to you soon.
Pleasure. Cheers.
I really hope you found something to take away from that video. If I can be of any assistance with your home brewing requests, feel free to contact the Stretta page. Till then, I'll see you next week. Keep well and stay safe.